And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, for the past 3 years, AEG has put out a black box on Black Friday. They put out one in 2014, which included game Trains and some other games that were inside it, and then 2015 was a bunch of micro games. In 2016, right before their black box was released, they said, hey everybody, it's just one game, and that game is Phase. But then they put the cover back on it. This is possibly the worst marketed game of the year. No question. Because if you go to stores now, you see Black Box 2016. I just was at my store and I saw it on the shelf. Nobody knows what it is. And then you're basically randomly getting a game. And this is not the kind of game that you randomly want to get, especially with Mr. Eyeball Creature there in the front, right? This is a game I think it's 14 plus, definitely 14 plus, both in artwork and complexity. Now, from what I understand, Phase was a collectible card game idea that AEG had that never got finished, and then they decided to publish it here. In their marketing for this game, which again, like I said, was not very good marketing. In the marketing for this game, they essentially said, hey, Phase is like back like the old CCGs. Remember those old CCGs that came out after Magic and they all died for, I wonder why, reason? Well, this one lets you break the game. There's broken combos, even like a t-shirt, like you broke this game. And the big draw to this game was the fact that it's phasing and that every card is double-sided. Well, I was interested in that. That whole fact that you can break the game will instantly turns off half the gaming population, right? They're like, what? The game is deliberately broken? I'm out. I was like, wow, let's check it out, okay? So I went, got my copy of this mysterious black box, which actually is called Phase, which, by the way, is really close to Phase 10. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. Let's take a look at the game. Now this game comes with 300 cards. It also comes with 150 sleeves so that you can sleeve these cards. It's important to keep the cards sleeved when you play this game because every card has two sides and you're going to be flipping from one side to the other side. So here we have the Heartless one and Sister Yera, and Viserose and Reznar, and the Dwanzi Monk and Pain. And you'll notice that one card is always a good side, white, and one side is always a side of darkness. And you can see there's multiple cards. Here we have 3, 4, 5 Brother Jeremys. But on the other side, they are 5 different cards. So there are 10 of every character in the deck. So look at all these sprites here. But you'll notice that every sprite is something different on the other side. Now the game comes with pre-constructed decks. However, you can make your own deck. And the rules for making a deck are extremely simple. 30 cards. That's it. There are no other rules. So if you want to put 10 sprites in your deck, you can do so. Once you've got your deck made, you're going to have to kind of shuffle it and mix the sides because the sides in this game matter a lot. So I might mix it and then, do some more shuffling because in this game, there's going to be some points here in the middle of the table. And these are influence tokens. And you are trying to get the most influence tokens of one of the types. Doesn't matter whether it's the good or the bad type. But there's going to be 10 per player. So players are going to be mixing their deck, and then you're going to have a deck. Now this game uses a lot of obscure terminology, and I might get some of it wrong. Please do not use this video as a tutorial on how to play the game, because how to play the game is not the simplest thing in the world. But essentially, the first thing players will do on their turn is they will unlock. In this game, cards can be phased, which means they flip over to the other side, or they can be locked, which essentially is tapping them. So if you have any locked cards, you will unlock them. This area is your barracks, and you will start the game with a card in your barracks, and at the beginning of each turn, you are going to be drawing a card and enlisting, which is putting the card in your barracks. Now, when you draw cards from your deck, you draw them like this, but they come in your hand like this, so your opponent can see this side, and you see this side, and these are the actual cards in your hand. To play cards, you're going to be often playing cards as actions. So you can see there's actions here on the side, And to play each card is going to have a cost. Like this one here costs, I have to phase 3 cards of my barracks. If I don't have 3 cards, I can't do it. This one here, I have to lock a certain number of cards. And sometimes I need to lock a certain number of cards and phase 1. So you need to have at least enough stuff down here. But what players are going to be doing basically at the end of their turn is they're going to be able to deploy warriors. So to deploy this sprite, I need to phase 1 other card. So I phase it and bring out. I could deploy this sprite, but there are no more cards left to phase. But if there was another one, I could phase this one to bring her out. To bring out this Heartless one, I would need to have at least 4 other cards to phase to bring it out. Now you're bringing in and you're deploying these characters. So this is their phase cost. You're deploying these characters because on your turn, you're going to attack the Nexus. You're going to pick another player. If you're playing a 2-player game, it's obviously the other player. Or you're going to, if there's multiple players, you pick someone to defend the Nexus, and then you can attack them or the Nexus itself. So you'll pick what you're going to attack with, and you're going to attack with all good or all bad, and the person you pick to defend has to defend with the opposite. And so when you attack with the different creatures, you'll notice that they have different attack numbers here and different defensive numbers that can knock them out. They also have all kinds of special abilities. This guy can lock a resource of someone else. This guy is swift, so he hits first. It's basically haste from magic. This guy is relentless, so lets him enlist a card, but that card comes out locked. There's all sorts of special abilities. There are some actions and things that can happen that you can play in the middle of a battle and will change it. If the damage is not absorbed by enough blockers, then you will get these tokens if you're attacking the Nexus. If you're attacking another player, you will make them lose tokens, which is essentially the same as you getting tokens in a 2-player game. You will get tokens of the type that you attacked with. So obviously you can't just have an army of darkness or an army of light, and it doesn't matter because every time you're attacking or defending with people, you're phasing them and flipping them over. And you'll keep doing this till the tokens are gone from the middle, and whoever has the most tokens of one of the types is the winner. And that's a very, very, very sketchy overview of the game. So again, you have to read the rule book. The rule book itself, and I should show you, explains how to play the game. And then there's a big, extremely long sample turn, which I needed to go through to understand it, a glossary. And then the book has another side, which just has a story about whatever, and then shows you all the different cards. It shows you, like, here's the anonymous cards, and then there's the back of all the 10 anonymous. There's Brother Sticks, and there's the 10 backs to Brother Sticks, etc. But before we get to my opinion here, let's just take a look at some more of the cards that are in here. A Fireheart Golem, a Nighthawk, the Cognet, Gladiator, Lady Moderna, Defense Matrix Z, See No Evil, Inventinol Assassin, Grey Wolf. And card to card, these are going to be the same. The actions on the cards are the same too, and the abilities are the same. And remember, the difference is the back. So here we have the Duchess on the back, who is swift, and we have Athanasios, who's trained and relentless. And so let's just look at a few more cards. You can see the artwork in this game is extremely detailed. Looks like they went online and found some fantasy artists. I don't know where the art came from. All right, let's get to the opinion. The art for this game, here's Destructus, and here's the Overseer, and Callistra. It's well done art, but I don't know, it feels a little bit old school, like 1990s maybe. Especially, I don't know. It just feels odd. It feels like they went online and found somebody. I don't know who did the art for this game. It's well done art, but the art there's no thematic tying in. I read part of that story. It wasn't a very good story. This game has like no theme. It's like, let's just throw everything into a box. Bad guys and good guys. They're fighting, and there's demons and guys with swords, and generic theming. Bad theming. Component-wise, I do like the layout of the cards. It's a little hard to read the actions, but pretty easy to understand. The flipping the cards is fine. The sleeves for the game, that's good, but it's like that hot dog and hot dog bun thing. Why are we having 150 sleeves for 300 cards? You want me to wrap the 5 decks that came in the box to pre-constructed and not the others, and if I want to change them, I got to do it? Oh, you want me to buy more sleeves from you? I don't mind that they put in sleeves. I wouldn't have minded if they hadn't put in sleeves, but to put in sleeves for half the cards just seems odd. But whatever, that's not that big of a deal. The double-sided nature of the cards is cool, but also problematic. I can't tell you how many times in games when I play with cards that I will lay them down on the table knowing that I can put them down and yet my opponent can't see them. I can do that here, but then I'm like, wait, it's the side away from me I'm picking up. Or constantly, you're forgetting which card, or I just phase that card, and you're flipping cards over, and it's sometimes hard to keep track of everything. And in fact, it's hard to keep track of the stuff in this game, period. There's all kinds of special abilities. There's all kinds of things, and every time anything happens in this game, you're like, okay, wait, who's playing a card? There's the order stack that's in Magic and other games. Well, that is certainly amplified in this one. Now, this game plays more than 2 players. Everybody can go up against each other. But when you're playing more than 2 players, it just becomes very... First of all, you wait when it's not your turn, and then so I'm attacking, and I'm going to pick Joe, because Joe is not doing so well. And you, Susan, you're doing fine. I'm not going to have you defend. And so there's some of that kind of nonsense, and especially if you can hit someone just to make their points go down, it's like, here we go, round and round the mulberry bush. So that's just a little odd. So I'm going to look at this mostly as a 2-player game, because that is how I have played all but one of my games, was with 2 players. The game is very difficult. It doesn't help in these kind of games when you name things all kinds of weird names. I mean, I understand that no one wants to use the tap word, so they use lock. But when you have these, like some of the other phasing here, in front of you, we have the Nexus, we have the Barracks, we have Enlist, we have Recruit, and it's like, what do all these cards, what does all that mean? And that terminology doesn't help this, and the rulebook wasn't the best rulebook ever either. I was glad they included a full explanation of the game, because until I read that, I was like, what exactly is going on? And this game is also not a game that just comes naturally to what you're doing. I've played a lot of collectible card games, a lot of them. I have played a lot of card games, period. And I played this with one of the best gamers I know, and we were both kind of like, huh? It took a while to understand it, but the game doesn't seem to have any sort of flow. It's just chaotic. I attack, now my cards flip over. Oh, that's right, that's what was on the other side of those cards. I can look at my own, but when I draw a card from a deck, I'm like, oh, that's the one that has this guy in the back, and then I have to remember which side I want to put out, and sometimes I draw it, and I really want it the other side, so I need to put it here, and then phase it, and then my opponent does something that phases some of my people, or then they play a card, and my people get killed, and I got to come back. And the game isn't very long. 30 minutes seems legitimate for this game, but it just feels like one massive, what happened? I won. The fact that you can put any 30 cards in a deck is cool. I like that. That's a neat idea. But it doesn't make for a lot of strategy. And you're like, well, okay, forget strategy. Just go out and have bombastic, humongous fun. And it's like, I want to, but I'm just playing these cards and kind of seeing what happens. And I have a cool card, and then they messed it over, and I'm like, well, I don't even know what you have in your deck. I can't prepare for anything you have in your deck. This game makes Magic the Gathering look extremely simple. So I don't like it, really. I don't like the names of the characters, because some of them are just really like, this guy's name is Berserker, and this person's name is Tornadus, and Squeezle. Well, that's kind of a cool name. But there's a lot of names that are like, this is Necromancer. There's just a lot of boring names. The theme does nothing for me because it's all over the map. And the game is chaotic and crazy. And it's neat that there's 300 cards in this box. And it's neat that there's all kinds of combinations. But I'm never going to get a grasp on that. I'm never going to find anyone who wants to play this with me. There needs to be kind of a focal point. What's the focal point? Not the theme. Not even the deck building and game mechanisms. It's like, here's some cards, go crazy, rah! But we already have games that do that. For example, Magic the Gathering, it's a very straightforward game. So the game Epic from White Wizard was like, you want those big cards to play big cards, go crazy. And it does it, but it does so in an orderly fashion. This is like, go crazy, but you never know what's going to happen. It's chaotic, and then you're trying to get white chips and black chips, and then your cards flip over, and you do this, and you're sitting there, and it was more work to play this than it was entertaining. I don't know that it matters, though. I went on the internet. Very few people have played this game. Very few people are talking about this one. It's probably still on most store shelves. But if you find the Black Box 2016, I recommend you pass it by. If Phase comes out in another form, I think there's a few people who like it, but I really don't think it's for everybody. This seems like kind of an experiment. It's kind of a cool idea. I'm certainly not opposed to experiments like this happening, but I'm not sure I want an experiment sold in a box. And then you're like, well, look at all this cards and all this. It's neat, but that was a pretty pricey thing to get here for just an experiment. Let's see what the next thing AEG does and hope it's better. Dice Tower Judgment, too many problems.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!